sacrifices, play this game. I done prayed that my life would never be the same. I done prayed that I will make it bring glory to my name.
And ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Uncle Strib. I have another guest that is going to hop on and basically I'll give her the floor to introduce herself. So go ahead.
Okay. I'm Astin Harlow. I know you through my time at the University of Missouri, which I graduated with a bachelor's in mass media and interpersonal communications and a minor in psychology. And I am now in law school in Boston. So I just finished my first year out here. So yeah.
And what kind of law are you working towards?
That's the question, isn't it? So
always.
Yeah. I mean, do any of us really know? But I know what I don't want to do. I'm very interested in intellectual property law. And with an adjacent to that kind of sports law, because of my time, obviously how I met you working for the University of Missouri and their athletic association. There's a lot of issues in athletics and things like that that are not being covered because people simply just don't care.
Right.
So that would be my general idea as of right now, but I'm open-minded to most of that kind of stuff. So.
And then how long is like the total program?
So an average dual doctorate takes 3 years. Depending, you can do accelerated programs. I don't know why anyone would do that to themselves, but yeah, so it'll averagely take about 2 years, 3 years.
And that's right out of bachelor's, or is that after a master's?
It is after your bachelor's. So you can take it after a master's. What we find usually is that the individuals who go and get their master's before coming to law school tend to have a background in tax. So taxation law and that kind of stuff, they usually like to have further education, or patent law, which is under intellectual property. They like to find STEM degrees and things like that, that usually assist in that kind of work. So. Okay.
That's interesting. And then, so you're in school, and occupational wise, is it like full-time school, or are you getting paid through wherever you're at, or you have like another side job?
Well, so usually your first year, depending on the program, some of them actually don't allow you to work.
Interesting.
Your first year. So since I just finished my first year, because I took a year off after undergrad before I decided to even come to law school, which is a whole thing in itself. They usually will not allow you to work your first year. They give you leeway with your second year, just because the first semester is so, it's a lot. I would go to class for 4 hours and I would have over 100 more pages of reading and 8 hours of work outside of that. And it's not like undergrad where they tell you should spend 2 hours per every credit hour. You actually have to follow those guidelines, or else you will be behind and your teachers will make fun of you for it. So
I assume you don't know for sure, like, what's the end game, or do you have an idea?
Well, obviously I would like to be an attorney of some sort. That's the goal, especially. Obviously, so I'm not sure of what you are aware of, but it's not like regular school. Whenever you graduate, you kind of can get a job. For us, we have to take an exam after we graduate. So it's very possible to go through 3 years of law school and not pass your bar and not be able to become an attorney, which is unfortunate, but it does happen. So for us, we have an exam after our 3 years that we have to take, and that is what gets us licensed, that we can go and start practicing or find a job.
They get you your Esquire, huh?
Our Esquire.
Does anybody actually still use that?
No.
I think it's pretty lit. If I was practicing law, I'd have an Esquire on all my stuff.
Well, I mean, and it kind of depends on like your preference. There's so many different ways to practice. And that's like the beauty of law school that I found, because I never wanted to be a lawyer. It was never like a dream of mine. I kind of stumbled into it, and like, it sounds bad and people get frustrated with me when I say it, but I like kind of accidentally got into law school because I took the exam for fun. But the beauty of it that I've discovered is that like it teaches you how to think differently. So they teach you to think like a lawyer. You learn how to practice whenever you get your first job and you have whoever's above you teaching you how to practice. But law school is not teaching you how to practice law. It's teaching you how to interpret the law and think differently. So that's kind of, it's different than most, it's called the Socratic method. So it's different than most levels of learning, especially higher education. It's a different kind of program. So, which is what makes it so difficult. So,
So what's the story on how you stumbled into law? Because I kind of relate to that, because I kind of stumbled into what well, maybe not as much of like stumbled, because I was always science. It was going to be something science, but in terms of astrophysics, I for sure stumbled into that. So like, what's your story? How you like stumbled into the law stuff?
So in undergrad, I did mass media and interpersonal comm. And through that, I was doing my own undergrad research for a little while and getting into how couples basically interact and success rates based of stigmatization of interracial couples. And that was something that was really interesting. And through that, I kind of like started to venture more into how people interact with each other and how it is, I guess, led by our society. And I took a criminal law class or a criminology class under the sociology department at Mizzou. It was my last credit hour before I graduated, and it was awesome. The professor was great, and we learned a lot of like different methods of like how the law is woven through gender, race, all sorts of things. So through that, I've had, like most women now, have a true crime thing that they love watching.
Of course.
And yeah, I mean, it's the generation, I guess. But my stepfather, my dad, is a criminal defense attorney in St. Louis. He also does family law and a few other things on the side. And I'm the last of his 6 girls.
Jeez.
So he was just like, take the exam for fun. I just want to see what you'll get. Like, I just want to see, you don't have to go, but just take it for fun for me. Like, you're my last shot, basically. So I was actually fully planning on going and getting my master's in communication as well, until I took it and I scored high enough to get into anywhere really I would be comfortable to go. And so I decided it would be a waste. And my pastor at the time basically told me it would be a waste and mentored me through that process. So.
And you chose Boston.
I chose Boston. I know. Stop shaking your head at me. I looked at Houston a little bit. I looked at Loyola. I looked at a couple of other schools, but I wanted to go somewhere I had never been. I didn't know anyone because I liked the challenge of that. And to kind of like prove to myself that you can, because it takes a special kind of person that can go somewhere completely alone and be okay.
Oh, I know. I did it twice.
So yeah, see, exactly.
Yeah, but Boston?
Have you been to Boston though?
No.
Okay, well then you'd probably have a blast here.
No.
How
Winters.
You don't have to come here. You could just come for like 2 weeks.
No, I'm talking about living in Boston.
See, but that's why I like it. We got 2 feet of snow in December, and I was outside running around like a happy child.
I'd be sick to my I cannot stress how much I do not I would be 100% satisfied and ecstatic if I never saw another ounce of snow the rest of my life. I do not like cold weather at all.
I don't do well in the heat.
Oh, I strive. Well, I mean, obviously that's the difference. I strive in the heat. Yeah. I moved down here. People are like, all right, you know, when you first move, like Texas or Florida or Arizona, all right, I don't know if you're gonna be able to handle the heat. I wear sweatpants daily at 110 degrees outside. I'm wearing sweatpants.
No, you should talk to someone about that.
I tell people because like, oh, the summers suck here. And I'm like, now it's my 3rd year here. I was like, summers are fine. I have no problem with the heat. I love it. I absolutely love it. It was 100. I think heat index was like 105 yesterday. Sweatpants.
It was 57 degrees and raining here yesterday.
Mm-mm.
And it was wonderful. I sat and watched the show we were talking about earlier for hours yesterday.
See, well, hang on. Let me look. Today, high of 95. It's 75 currently. I just got back from the gym, sweatpants, and I wore a hoodie to the gym. I strive in the heat.
No. Yeah, see. And I respect you for that.
But no, Boston, I do want to eventually like visit different places, because I actually have this is kind of getting like side conversation, but one of my things is, so I'm starting a thing with me and my friend, hopefully, sort of. I don't know if we're actually gonna be able to do it, but I'm gonna do it myself regardless. But my friend that I've been traveling with, shout out to Calvin, he also is the co-host to my other podcast or whatever. And so we're gonna take a trip to every NBA arena and go to every game, every home game at each arena.
Okay.
So I went to the Phoenix. So me and him went to Arizona for his birthday in November, this past November. And I went to an Arizona, a Phoenix Sun game. And what I do is I go to the arena, I go to their little shop they have, and I buy a hat from that arena, and I'm making a collection. Right now I only have two, because I have a Spurs hat, obviously because San Antonio Spurs. And then I have a Phoenix Suns hat. And then like this next season is coming up. I'm going to go to Houston. I'm going to get a Houston hat. And then I'm going to go to Dallas and get Dallas hat, because, I'm in Texas. That's not too crazy of a trip. And I'm going to eventually have all 30 teams hats, and I'm going to like glass case them. I'm not going to wear them. So eventually I'm going to end up going to a Boston Celtics game. So
absolutely. And I can see I can see the stadium from the top of my building, actually.
Oh, so you have all the money.
Like, their fans are so aggressive here about their sport. I mean, I'm from St. Louis, so I never had a basketball team.
Yeah.
So, we had a football team, but like barely. People can fight me about it. But
I mean, they were decent. They had a run with Marshall Faulk and all them.
It wasn't even for bad. Our fan base
fan base.
We were not like, no one cared about them at all, which is, but I never had a basketball team. So when I moved out here, I didn't realize like people really took it so seriously.
Oh yeah.
And it's deep. Like, if you're on the train going in and there's a game going on, like, everyone's wearing green. It doesn't even matter if you're going to the grand game. Like, the whole city lights up.
Because Boston, that's the only professional sports team out there, right? Besides baseball.
We have baseball. Technically, the Patriots are New England. They're in Massachusetts.
Okay, so they're not far.
No, and then we also have the Bruins. So that's so we have the Sox. We have all of them. Really?
Okay. Yeah, I keep forgetting New England's,
a region, not a
Yeah.
I've had that conversation with people who think that it's a state, which is sad, and that's a whole conversation. But yeah, New England consists of like Connecticut, Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, Massachusetts, Rhode Island. The
founding colonies, basically, that area.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's why it was called New England. But isn't what was I gonna say? It was related to the team. Isn't the New York Jets in New Jersey?
Yeah.
Isn't that? Yeah, that's right. So yeah, there's a little trickery, because I was thinking, Boston, because I know out here in San Antonio, it's just the Spurs. There's no professional football team. Pretty sure there's no professional baseball. There's no hockey. So it's literally go Spurs, go everywhere you go. All the malls, all the everything is Spurs, everything. So it's the fan base out here is fantastic. If you love this, it's ridiculous, just because that's all we have is Spurs and the UTSA football team, because they play in the Alamo Dome or whatever. But
and like in the South too, they pay more attention to like college ball, like especially like which we both saw that firsthand from different perspectives. And just from like working in recruitment, I saw how serious it was. And it's out here, they don't really care about like college teams at all. Like, no one out here watches college ball. If I even say I went to Mizzou or University of Missouri, most people don't even know what that is.
Oh yeah.
Which is,
it's like that out here.
Yeah.
So where's University of Missouri? I'm in Missouri.
It's an enormous university. What do you? There's
Well,
so many small colleges here. So
yeah, it's funny how I tried telling people, like, no offense, but I tried telling people from the Midwest, like, I'll be honest with y'all, if you go down south, nobody knows where the state of Missouri's at. Like, all honesty. And people, you know, if you're from Missouri, obviously you know where it's at because that's where you live. But I'm like, people, especially in Tennessee, you know, it's hit or miss. But in Texas, people don't know where Missouri is at. It's crazy.
Well, it's how it is here too. I had a conversation with someone. I have a chemist in my building. We're discussing things, and he was like, "Wait, where's Missouri at?"
Yeah.
It's like, close your eyes and point to the middle of the country. That's where we are. But everyone above us thinks we're the South. Everyone below us thinks we're the Midwest. So there's weird like mentality in especially those where like you get a like Tennessee vibe, but you also get like this weird Chicago thing going on, and it's like, I don't know.
Yeah, I have a problem with people's geographical classifications because when I say the South, I'm talking about the South. So like I come to Texas, I'm like, I'm from the South. They're like, we're the South too. It's like, no. I'm from the South, like Confederate South. When I say the South, I'm talking Confederate South. I'm talking Tennessee, Kentucky, Arkansas, Alabama, Georgia, Mississippi, Florida, Louisiana, South Carolina. That's the South I'm talking about SEC South. Now I can't say SEC South anymore because University of Texas and Oklahoma is joining and Missouri joined, and it's technically a Midwest. So I can't even say that no more.
Yeah.
I'm talking the Confederate South. But then I get in an argument and they're like, we're still the South. We have Southern culture. I was like, no, I get you're literally geographically the South. I understand that. But so is Southern California. So is Arizona. But when you say the South, we're not talking about Arizona at all.
Texas is its own environment.
I can't. That
was the nicest way I possibly can.
I cannot stand. I'm sorry to any of my fans because I know my friends from Shoe Palace listen to this and they're all from San Antonio. I cannot stand the Texas pride thing. I can't. My problem is I looked at
Houston, even Houston. One, it's so humid. I would never have survived. Two, when I had gone down to look, I was like, these houses here are beautiful, and they're like half of what I would pay for an apartment in Boston.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh no, I don't think. No,
I can't, because I got in an argument. When I say argument, it wasn't an argument, but more of a debate. But I was frustrated because Texas, they claim to be their own country. First of all, stop. Okay. Because
they act like it.
Yeah, because it's like, stop. Nobody wants to hear that. You are just one of 50 states of the United States of America. Okay. You're not your own country. Second of all, this Texas pride, they want to be so hip, and claim to be the best state in the country, which, you know, Texas is a great state though. I would live here if I had the opportunity. If I had the opportunity that was worthwhile, I would stay in Texas. I like Texas. I'm not saying it's wrong with Texas. I just hate that it's overhyped to me because they want to be hip like California is kind of very progressive, very open. You know, they first state to make gay marriages legalized. You know, their first state to legalize like weed recreationally. Yeah, so California is usually progressive, and most states follow suit whenever California passes something like that. Because eventually all 50 states legalize the gay marriage thing, yada, yada, yada. Texas wants to be, they claim to be hip. They claim to be the best in this, best in that. One, can't drive. Nobody out here can drive. Nobody out here can park. I don't know if you've seen my story. My apartment complex, people can't park between two lines that's wider than the vehicle that they have. Can't park. Yeah. Not only that, you claim to be progressive. It is the most judgmental, one of the most aggressively anti-anything state I've ever seen in my entire life.
Oh yeah. If you breathe, no one's there for you.
Oh my gosh.
And it doesn't even matter. Like I had family in San Antonio for a while. So I've been out there a couple of times and I instantly was like uncomfortable. I was like, oh no, this is not for me. And California is interesting because like something we discussed in my constitutional law class is like, the government kind of sees California a little bit differently because they have one of the largest economies in the world.
Right.
Just right. And so just the pure amount that they deal with, obviously they get a little bit of an enhancement when it comes to certain things. And Texas itself is so patriotic, but so like anti-patriotic.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
They're
It's like
American,
what?
but they hate their American people, and it's very interesting. A lot of my constitutional cases have come from Texas.
Texas,
yeah, a lot of them. My flag burning cases, Texas, that kind of stuff. So I've learned a lot about that state, like legally, which has been interesting. So
it's like, oh, we're the greatest state. We believe in America, yada yada. And they want freedom of speech. We can carry guns, but as soon as you have an opinion they don't agree with, oh no, you can't have the freedom of speech. It's like, no, they need to be stopped, canceled. Their careers need to be destroyed. I thought we had freedom of speech. What happened to that? They're so wishy-washy.
And it's like a lack of education. Oh, okay, this is gonna sound bad, but it's like it can be a lack of education. And by education, I don't mean stereotypical university education. I mean the willingness to learn.
Right. And the open-mindedness.
Yes. Yeah. And live different cultures and societies and things like that. And the issue with Texas is that it's so, I guess, aggressive about those kinds of things, where it can be difficult to even hear, because I mean, everyone evolves as they change and go through life and that kind of stuff. And it's interesting to see just how like aggressive people are about things that they know nothing about.
Exactly. And again, if you're from Texas, listen to this. We're not talking about all Texans. We're just talking. It's mainly, to me, it's more of the Texas government, because there's people out here that hate the governor of Texas. So, what is Ted Cruz is the mayor, or is he the mayor of a big city, or is he the governor? I can't remember, because let me make sure. Oh, he's a senator of Texas. Okay. Anyway, that's besides the point. But fun fact. You want to hear a fun fact? This is my fun fact of why I think Tennessee's one of my arguments for Tennessee being the greatest state in the country. Obviously, I'm biased. I got 615 tatted on me. Shout out Nashville 615. It's the area code. But people say Texas the greatest state. And anytime I personally have a conversation with somebody that say that, I'm like, actually, Tennessee's better. And they'll be like, what? Yeah. Here's why. First of all, when I say UT, where I'm from, University of Tennessee. Obviously, when I'm down here, I got to specify, because UT, Austin, is an hour and a half straight up I-10 or I-35. So I have to specify. But I always say the real UT when I'm talking about University of Tennessee. And they're like, what? But here's the fun fact. Two fun facts. One, the University of Tennessee was a university before the state of Texas was even a state in this country. Okay. That's one. So the University of Tennessee came first, right? And fact number two, during the Mexican-American War, when they were fighting over the region of Texas, Davy Crockett was the general in that war, right? Well, Davy Crockett was the governor of Tennessee before that. Okay. And he saw that the America needed help in the Texas-American War. So he went down to Texas to become the general during that war. And the reason why Tennessee is called the volunteer state is because the majority of the soldiers that fought in that war were volunteers from the state of Tennessee that followed Davy Crockett to Texas to help fight in the war, because Davy Crockett was such like a leader, and people literally followed him into war. That's why Tennessee is called the volunteer state, right? So that I always tell people, without Tennessee, Texas wouldn't even have been a state. It would be a region of Mexico, which is a reach, but you can probably deduce that. Second, if you notice that the University of Texas, its colors are very similar to University of Tennessee. Which one was the university first? The University of Tennessee was. Now they're paying homage. Just want to throw that out there.
Without Boston, none of y'all would have been states. So I'm just saying, cities older than our country.
That's a little further of a reach, because I would say you're indirectly correct. Indirectly. The Tennessee example is a little more direct, but yeah, okay. All right. But you can make the argument that if it wasn't for England, this country wouldn't be a country. But
yeah.
How far back you want to go?
Yeah. Listen, I'm not a history person. May surprise you. Not at all.
If Eve had never been to the apple,
That, wow.
I'm just saying how far back you want to go. No, but
that's a whole conversation. That's a whole different podcast.
I was actually listening to this is actually a migration story of like how, so you know how like, I don't know like what your belief, I don't know if belief's the right word, but scientifically it's basically a constituents that all life started in Africa, right? That's like, I don't know if you're scientifically educated, it's been proven. Now, obviously, people disagree, yada yada, but let's just assume all life started in Africa, right? And then people, ask about like, well, Native Americans that were here before Christopher Columbus found yada yada. So what happened is, this is just what I heard actually this past week. So I've been listening to a lot of like educational podcasts, history, science, all this stuff. And so what happened was that there was an ice age that had happened, and it froze up all this water. When water freezes, it expands or whatever. So the sea level dropped as this water started to freeze. The sea level dropped, and there's this great land bridge between Asia and Alaska, right? You know how Asia and Alaska, you can see, or is it Russia? You can see that, you can see Russia from Alaska because it's literally that close to each other. When that water level dropped, people from Africa that migrated east towards Russia, Asia, there's people that migrated like south towards South Africa, yada, yada, yada. The people that migrated east found this land bridge, crossed over, and then you had Alaska, and then they went down south. And that's how you ended up with people in America and Mexico. And people kept going further down south to South America. And what happened is after that ice age, the earth started to heat up again. The ice started to melt. The water rose back up. So that bridge was now under sea level. So you couldn't cross anymore. And those natives were cut off from the rest of the world for 10,000 years. And that's how you had, when Christopher Columbus came here, there were people already here, but they had been living in this country for 10,000 years when they all originally came from the other continents. So I thought it was pretty cool how and then, once you migrated after 10,000 years, that's enough time for the humans to evolve based on their environment. So people that traveled south of Africa, obviously close to the equator, hotter environment. So over time, their skin developed more melatonin to account for this environment with intense sun. Because if not, they sun poisoning, you couldn't live, or you'd have to always be inside, right? And so people that traveled,
I hate Texas.
people that traveled up north obviously didn't need that, so they begin to get lighter because they didn't need the melatonin because of it's not as intense with the sun, yada yada. And that's the same. But over 10,000 years, that's enough. So that's how you have different ethnical races, and that's how we have different skin tones based on things like that. So yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting. I don't know why I decided to share that, but
you know what? You learn something new every day. I've never looked into it. I wasn't there. I don't know. It's kind of where I've been comfortable at. But
I know I didn't know either. I was like, well, if natives were here, how'd they get here? I've always thought that. I didn't know. And then I'll just watch it or listen to a podcast, and this dude just spills it. That makes so much. It makes all the sense, obviously, but it's pretty cool.
It's interesting how podcasts can do that for you as well. So I've been listening to someone specifically lately who's more in like the behavioral analysis kind of thing. And it's interesting how listening to someone else, you may know it in the back of your mind, but hearing it come from someone else is a little bit better. And this individual, I don't necessarily agree with a lot of his political views, but as a scientist, he does a lot of great work. So it's been interesting to kind of hear him and even just his different perspective on things that I may not agree with, but
Yeah, that's actually a testament to like your personality. The fact that, there's some people that if there's anything they disagree with, they close their minds off to it. And I think it's a good sign of the kind of person you are, that even that you don't agree with everything they have an opinion on, you still know the value of what they're talking about from the scientific standpoint, or just listening to their view of why, like the view that you don't agree with, just listening to their view of you understand, you still disagree, you kind of get where they're coming from. And I feel like I wish everybody had that mindset of just Because there's plenty of people that I listen to that I'm like, I don't know about that one. But I like when they explain why, and I'm like, I get it. I still disagree, but you know, I get it as long as it's not just outlandish just because. I can't stand
And it's like, I feel like it's important, especially because my background is like in how people interact with each other. It's important to understand that like method and how people are doing that, which is like, I talked to you earlier. This is why I'm watching Naruto, is because I've had stuff I know, and I knew you were going to be so excited about it because you included and a couple of other people in my life really enjoy it. And I think I avoided it. I'm 25. I've avoided it for so long because I never found it interesting. And then I kept running into these men specifically who really love like anime and things like that. And my preference is more of like horror thriller films. So I started off watching the actual Death Note, not the trash movie, but the
anime.
Yeah.
I figured. Yeah. Go ahead.
And this movie was terrible. And now I understand why everyone's so up in arms about it. But now I'm on season 4 of Naruto, and I think I started on Tuesday.
Oh my gosh.
And I know. I'm like that though. So because I wanted to understand why, because I kept getting these conversations with either like men, my friends, or coworkers, or boyfriends, or whatever. Who were like, oh, it's so much deeper than that. Like, stop. It's not like that stuff. And I was like, okay, you know what? Like, I'm tired of people having this conversation with me. Like, I'm in Boston by myself for the summer. Like, I'm gonna watch this darn show and I'm gonna see how it goes. And I'm like pleasantly surprised. I'm starting to understand why mainly men are drawn to it. Women are as well, but I think the people who have brought it up to me who like this specific anime men, and I'm getting why. And
what are you deducing as why? I'm interested to hear your opinion.
Okay, so to preface, I'm a woman,
right?
Speaking from a woman's perspective, I am not a man. Never understand what it is like to be a man, but through my experiences with men, I think that we're all raised to kind of talk to ourselves in a specific way, and your environment, your parents, your family, your culture, or what you expose yourself to, the voice in your head is impacted by your surroundings. And you'll find that men specifically tend to, and in my experience, I know that the fear is usually failure or not being what they stereotypically are supposed to be. So historically, men are supposed to be providers, which is we'll have a whole conversation about that another time, but that is what their purpose was given to them historically. And now the thing that I have seen is that failure comes from that, a fear. And when you find things like shows like this who express someone who just doesn't give up, because he just doesn't give up, like dude does not care, like no reservation whatsoever. He's like, this is my goal, this is what I'm doing. And I feel like that resonates with a lot of men because when they don't have a goal, I have seen men talk to themselves in a horrible way for being lazy or not working hard enough, or that you can always work harder, you can always be more. And they're never told that who they are is enough. And I know it sounds corny and whatever, but it's true. And even working in football, you and I have had this discussion before where you're told you're special because of the sport that you play. And then when you don't get picked up,
right, when it's gone.
And I think that's something that this show resonates with, because you have a goal, you're so close-minded to it. And I've seen a couple characters get injured where they can't continue, and that like depression that hits with like, oh no, this was my purpose and now it's not here anymore. As a man, I feel like that hits harder for men because they create their identity around that. So
you got all that from a anime?
I mean, do you not watch the same thing I'm watching?
No, like, I'm asking that in like that in a good way. Like, it's fantastic. That's why I try to tell people, like, you can extrapolate so much from good. Not all animes are this deep, but there's like you extrapolate all of that from the show. That's what it's meant. Like, it's so much deeper than just these ninjas fighting. Like, well, I tried to tell people, like, you can learn life lessons from anime. You could become I honestly believe you could be watching anime. You could be inspired by this animation to become a better person. I honestly believe that.
And it's a way for men, like, and I'm only speaking on men because if we start talking about women in anime, it's gonna be a different conversation. But with men, I think it's a way for them, because men are typically, not always, but typically raised that emotion, negative or positive emotion, is usually bad. And so that conversation is always uncomfortable to have. And with anime, it's more of like a subtle way of getting men to think about that without having to pressure them into it and them closing and kind of going turtle shell on it. So it's a way for you to like kind of see, oh, dang, like, you know, everyone like hates this little guy for no reason, like for something that he can't control.
Exactly.
Like, he didn't choose to have this stuff happen to him. Like, he didn't choose to be a part of this situation, just like Sasuke didn't choose to be the last person. And like that kind of stuff. So they're seen differently. And it's interesting to see how both of them, those two characters specifically, are seen on completely opposite sides of the spectrum for both having something inflicted upon them that wasn't their choice.
Right.
And it's, I feel like at least there's a character that any man can relate to, and even some women with like the drive. I think a lot of the women in this one specifically are kind of annoying, but
well, it gets better. It gets better.
It gets better
for the women. Yeah, it gets a lot better.
But it's like, it's still that kind of like that drive, or even the positivity about it. It's not like a malicious kind of thing. Even some of the bad guys still have like qualities that you're like, oh, okay, like you were created, like you weren't born this way, you were created because of the people that are suppressing Naruto. He happens to be taking a positive way, but that suppression, obviously not everyone's going to take it positively, and so you get these bad guys.
Yeah, speaking of Naruto, I got a Naruto little pin on my I used to have I got a Naruto bracelet, but it started fading. It's the Akatsuki thing. You'll learn about that later. But when you get done with Naruto and then you start Naruto Shippuden, you think Naruto's good. When you get to Shippuden, it makes Naruto look like a 4 out of 10. That's how much better Shippuden is than Naruto. Like Naruto, like when I was watching Naruto at the time, I'm like, oh, this is the greatest thing ever. I got to Shippuden, I was like, Naruto's absolutely trash. Naruto Shippuden is so much better.
Well, and I had obviously seen anime like in passing occasionally through like previous relationships where like, hey, can we watch this tonight? So I've seen like some of like One Punch Man and
One Punch Man is a little different because the creators were making, well, not necessarily making fun of, but they took some of like the stereotypical connotations from other animes to make this character. They were making spoofs of other animes because this guy, he trains so hard, he's so strong, he beats everybody in one punch. And the whole premise is that he wants to find somebody that can actually challenge him in a fight because he has no fun because he can easily beat people. So it's literally, there's no deep plot in One Punch Man. It's fantastic fighting anime, the animations, the fight scenes, but like it's literally just a dude looking for a fight.
Well, yeah, and it wasn't really like my thing either. I've seen a bit of oh no, what is it called? Fairy Tail?
Yeah, Fairy Tail.
Yeah.
I haven't seen much of Fairy Tail.
I've seen some of it occasionally. So like that's the thing, is like my exposure to this, like before, just those like minute things was like and when I was young, and I watched Korra as well, which is
Legends of Korra.
Yeah.
Be careful.
I watched all of it. What do you mean be careful?
It's not an anime. But
I know this. That's what I was gonna say. Is that not technically in the same realm?
Yeah. But,
so my exposure to it had been very minimal.
You watch Avatar: Last Airbender? Okay.
Didn't everyone watch that growing up?
I was just making sure. It's still not an anime technically, but
everyone would be a firebender, obviously.
Fire. I for Earth. I'm for sure would want to be Earth.
What? So if I actually got to choose, I would want to be water.
Water. I feel like you can't go wrong with either if you know how to use it. I'd do Earth just because I live in the middle of
dirt.
Yeah, exactly. Like I feel like depending, like if you lived on the East Coast or if you lived like on an island, I feel like water might be better for you. If you lived on land, like I live in the middle, there's no body of water close to me. So like I could use my earth bending literally whenever. And you know, it transitions into metal bending and yada yada yada.
Yeah, all of that stuff and
water's
the other,
low.
but
Water's low key OP, which OP. So now that you're in anime, OP means overpowered or overpowered, which means like
okay.
it's unbeatable. Water is low key OP if you can learn like the blood bending, because everybody you can beat anybody if you got blood in you, you know.
And that's something I've been enjoying with Naruto specifically, seeing all the different abilities.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how whoever created this, I don't know how they came up with half of this shit. Like, because I never would have thought, like, they just went through some trials, and this guy has like bugs that come out of his skin that are like a part of him. I'm so bad with the names. I could describe them to you, but I will not be able to give you the names.
Man, I was actually super good with the names because dang, it's on the tip of my tongue. Oh, Shino, that's what his name is.
He's interesting. Like, there's things like that where it's like, if I was creating something, I never would have thought of that. So I kind of like how creative it is. And yeah,
it gets so much more complicated. Oh my gosh. But if you like Naruto, I literally have there's a list of animes. It's Naruto is like one of the OG animes. Start off, you had Dragon Ball Z is like the anime that made anime, that started the transition of anime becoming popular. Because you have Dragon Ball Z, it's huge, it's still going on now because there's Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball Super. And it's like the OG. It's Dragon Ball, One Piece, Bleach, and then people throw Naruto in there. I'd hold off on One Piece because there's 1,000 something episodes. So
see, I like the commitment though. You know,
well, I'll say
Supernatural, it was like 15 seasons.
But it's tough because it started in the 90s, so the early episodes are so dry because it's before the animation's really good. It's before like the deep fight scenes. So like there's a lot of talking during the fighting. There's not much actual fighting. It gets hard to watch initially, but
yeah.
But those are the big four. But then all the animes that are inspired by Naruto are like the big hits, like My Hero Academia. Demon Slayer is not based off of Naruto, I don't think, but Demon Slayer is fantastic. And it's those animes that's kind of like Naruto where you got this surface level show, but it's so deep. If you're actually paying attention, it's so much deeper. But My Hero Academia is one of my favorites. It's literally Naruto to a T. Black Clover is literally Naruto to. It's about this kid. He's either terrible or has no powers when everybody else does, but he refuses to give up, and just the sheer willpower and determination is what gets him so far into the show. You know, he's the main character, so it becomes like the strongest ever.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's like, it's nice because of that mentality that a lot of these have, just even from watching the few that I have gotten to. And my list is, I've been created a list by someone to watch through them. And it's like that, like, I guess, unwillingness to like fail or stop is a great thing that most people need to learn. And that like when things are difficult, it's okay to like keep going forward and like figure it out. And not everything is always going to be great. And I think these characters are this specifically just because I'm watching this one right now. But I feel like that you can learn that in books and things like that as well. But I think this is a nice outlet for men specifically to feel comfortable experiencing that kind of stuff.
Now that I think about it, honestly, I think the drive, determination, and passion I have might have came from watching anime. Because I was watching anime when I was 5 or 6. I was watching it as a kid. And especially Dragon Ball. Like, if people that are listening are familiar with Dragon Ball Z, Goku, you're gonna have to kill him to stop him. And he's not going down easy. He could lose an arm, a leg, and half his face. If he draws breath, you're gonna have to fight this man until he's dead. And even in the show, when he dies, you gotta fight. He literally fights people while he's dead. But anyway, I'm watching shows like that because as a kid, I wanted to be a superhero.
Yeah.
So while I'm watching Naruto get his ass beat, but still stands up, or like, have you seen the Chunin exams where Rock Lee is unconscious?
Yeah, that's what I just finished those actually.
Rock Lee is he's fighting Gaara. Rock Lee is unconscious and he is still. What's up?
Gaara's like, I can't even begin with.
Oh, he's so
the creepiest person. Like, honestly,
you're gonna become a huge fan of Gaara. Trust me.
Really? Oh, he's so weird to me.
Oh, or you're gonna be
girl, you're
girl?
Talking about Rock Lee, but the girl, I cannot remember her name.
The
girl
one with the fan?
Oh, no.
The what? Hinata?
Short. Hinata, yes.
Yeah.
Her too, like, even though, like, because she was not much of like a fighter, she was always like more loving,
very B-type personality.
Just having him like yell for her, because obviously he means a lot to her, and that could be translated to anyone in your life that you like hold to some sort of pedestal.
Yeah.
Just even that little bit of motivation, like, yeah, she really got herself pretty fucked up, but it was still the fact that she like pushed through it and was able to. And I feel like this mentality, like, that can be translated into like men bringing other men up, or women bringing other women up. Like, take the time to, it's not all about you. It's not all about your fight. Like, Rock Lee was getting so upset because he was one of the last ones called, but it's like, it's not about you. You know, and I think more people need to hear that. It's not about you.
Bro, that fight though with Rock, because Rock Lee, Gar had never been touched before. Yeah. When he took them ankle weights off, they're like,
which that was hilarious.
Oh my gosh.
Flew up after, I was cracking up.
Those things, how heavy did Mike Guy said each one was? It was like 100, like they were heavy.
Oh, I was not.
Oh, and then Gar started to get faded. Gar said, "Oh, you think this is a game?" Mm-hmm. It's one of my favorite fights in the Chunin exam. And then Gar gets him, dude is unconscious. It's like, I'm not, bro. I'm watching this as a kid. I was like, that's what I want to be. I want to be undeniable.
You want to be.
I want to be the guy that if you're fighting me, even if you're beating my ass, I'm still getting up, and the guy's beating my ass like, oh shit, like this dude does it. I want to be that guy where it's like, you're gonna have to kill me to get me to stop.
Well, there's a power in not quitting and not
waiting. That's what.
It's like when someone can respect you, can be bad at something, but someone will respect you for continuing.
Oh, just for
yeah.
Just for this guy just does not give up. Yeah, I love it. I love it.
Well, and like, I'm sure you have people. I mean, I know I have people in my life, so I can assume you have at least someone in your life who you're like, damn, I don't even know how they're like functioning. Like, they've just been through so much, like back to back to back to back, and they're still getting up, going to work, still providing for their family, still being a good, I don't know, husband, boyfriend, dad, mom, whatever. And it's interesting, kind of like, you know, that mentality. And it's kind of cool that like you watch them growing up, because fundamentally what you watch when you're 5 and up it's a personality creating.
Yeah.
So, like, I personally was watching horror movies. So,
but yeah, you got some tearjerkers coming your way though. You got a while, but
if this show makes me cry, I'm going to be upset.
Oh, I'm a grown ass man watching basically a Japanese cartoon. There's one arc that's so, bro, I'm in there. Like, tear hasn't dropped. Eyes are getting a little watery. I'm like,
it was there.
Oh my, I can't wait. I can't wait to
fillers. Navigating the filler episodes have been interesting.
Oh, I skipped all the fillers.
That's what I was like trying to find like the best way to go through them, because
there's a thing online that has a list of all the fillers, and I just skipped those. Yeah,
because I was told to do that as well, because there was one episode I was like, this is dumb, like I'm not learning anything.
Yeah, but one more thing on the anime is, I hope Attack on Titan is on that list.
My best female friend is actually watching that right now. So once I finish this, I'm supposed to watch, I cannot remember the name, something Swords, maybe?
Sword Art Online?
Sword Art, that's the one.
Oh, that's an easy one. It's only like, I don't think it's not, you could probably finish it in a couple days. It's like 2 seasons, or maybe, it's not very long, but yeah, that's a good one too.
So I was told to watch that one, and then after that, I have Attack on Titan because I was told
Oh,
that good as well.
oh
So
my gosh.
I created summer reading for myself to make sure I'm still reading. So whenever I get back into school, and I have this as well, I guess.
Because they just finished part 1 of the newest season not that long ago. If you like if Death Note and like the horrors, anytime people are like, people are like, I want to get into anime, like, can you suggest stuff? And I was like, what kind of regular shows do you like? I'm like, oh, like the horror, like murder mysteries. I always suggest Death Note and Attack on Titan, because you think Death Note's dark, Attack on Titan is dark.
Death Note is dark. I'm like, this guy needed psychiatric help before he got the book.
Oh yeah, like, he was messed up before he got the book.
I know. And then like as I'm watching it, like sometimes because I'm watching that slowly as I'm watching Naruto, just because that one I have a hard time like sitting and watching for hours. Just because his monologues are like, I'm like,
oh, he's talks.
I just want to like give him a hug and tell him it's okay. Like, here's some lithium. Like, let's talk about it. Like,
yeah, smart as shit though.
Please.
But
and I like the what is it? The Shinigami?
Shishigami.
So his personality is hilarious. Like one of my favorite things is I like bad guys with good personalities.
Oh yeah, because he's just here to watch the show.
Yeah, like he's so funny. Like he's got a nice satire comedy to him, and so he's on it. He's my favorite part of it. But the movie did him so dirty. Like so much creepier in the anime. When I saw him, I was like, "What the hell is that?"
Yeah, I was gonna watch the movie, but one of my friends was like, "Don't watch the movie; it's gonna ruin the show for you." So I just never watched the movie.
Honestly, it was so bad. I watched it because I thought it was a horror film. I didn't even know it was an anime at the time.
Oh, I got you.
And when I watched it, I was like, "Oh, this is corny. Like this is stupid." And then I found out it was an anime, and I was requested to watch it recently. So
yeah, anytime I eat an apple, I think of Death Note and Shishigami. Anytime I eat an apple.
It's funny. I'm starting to understand like the cult mentality though. I like to watch like TV shows that a lot of people really are obsessed with, just so I can understand maybe why. Yeah, so it's been interesting to kind of go through this.
But again, you talk about Attack on Titan's the darkest anime I have. I don't think there's a single there's very like in terms of humor, it's the entire show is depressing. Like it's so dark. There's like if this is how much darkness there is, there might be this much humor in there. Very little. But it's fantastic. Okay. And the twists and turns, the plot's so good. The character development's elite. When you meet Captain Levi, just remember that name. Write that down. Captain Levi. Oh my gosh, dude's a savage. Sabahe.
But why do you like it? Like you're telling me why I would like it. Why do you like it?
Same reasons. Okay. I've been watching anime since before I was allowed to watch them. Like elementary school, and I appreciate deep plots. I appreciate character development. I appreciate even the surface level of what it is. But it's like it's different. It's not a stereotypical anime. There's like nobody has. Well, I was gonna say nobody has superpowers, but it's just different. But the character, besides Naruto, is probably the best character development anime I've seen so far.
Okay. This character specifically, or in general?
All of them. Because if you go from Naruto and Naruto Shippuden, all of the character development is really, except they fumbled the ball on a couple characters, but all of them are fantastic. And obviously, My Hero Academia is not done yet, but it has the potential to have fantastic character development. But Attack on Titan, Eren Yeager's season 1 and Eren Yeager's season 4 or 5, whatever this new season is, it's like, I don't even know. I can't say too much, but I love it because of all of it. That and just the fights, the animation, the choreographed fight scenes is some of the best I've ever seen. But it's the plot. Okay. The plot is one of those shows where you start off, just as much as the characters. I'll start there. So as you have the same questions they do. Where are these Titans coming from? And then they go to the academy and you start to learn about Titans just as the characters are learning about Titans. And then they're asking questions. You have the same ones like, damn, yeah, How do you, whatever. And then later on, as it goes, you start to know a little more than the characters do. You're like, oh, snap. Then once you get done with like season 2 or season 3, the end of each season, they learn more, but it creates more questions. So you learn something super critical and you're like, oh, well, wait, now I got 10 more questions from what you just learned. Yeah. And it keeps going. They'll answer the question. Season 2 answers season 1 questions, but then season 2 leaves you with more questions. Season 3 answers season 2 questions, and then you're left with more questions. Season 4, full circle. Season 4, they're going through these flashbacks and doing all this stuff, and they're connecting the dots. And as you're watching, you're like, holy shit. Okay. No way. They're connecting everything. And then there's like literally an episode, my heart dropped because it was like that. And I was like, oh shit. The whole thing came full circle. And then it's one of those things where you might even go back to season 1 and rewatch it because you're like, no fucking way. Like you start, oh god damn. It's fantastic.
It's good because like I'm glad you told me that because I'm one of those like I hate open-ended things. Like I want to know. Obviously, my entire profession is based around asking questions. So I'm a question person.
Yeah.
If I started watching it and after like season 2, I'm still not getting answers, I would have been salty.
No, you get them. It's just, when you discover more stuff, it at least, fantastic. But quick transition, because you're in law school, I have to ask.
Oh, no.
I would be remiss if I didn't ask your opinion on, what I'm going to say, the Amber Heard and Johnny Depp.
I already know.
I have to ask. The people want to know.
We're going to talk about our constitutional problem, but
look, we got till I don't know how much time you got, but we got till 11 o'clock, so we can talk about it all if we want to do it.
Wait. So the thing about the Amber Heard.
Yeah. Go ahead.
There's a God. Okay, so you are like probably the 8th person to talk to me about this.
I figured you'd gotten, but I have to for the cast. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. The issue is that the case was going on while I was in finals because my finals are 3 weeks long. So my knowledge is minimal of it, but people are missing what it's about. So like the money does not matter.
No.
The money does not matter. No one gives a damn if she can pay that money. I highly doubt he even wants it. It's more of because defamation cases are rarely won. Usually they kind of get done. You kind of resolve that way. So to go for defamation specifically, it was, if you would have asked me at the beginning of the case if he was going to win, I would have told you no.
Probably not. Yeah. Because
just so small things, if you're going to ask me, I have to give you the legal stuff about it.
Yeah.
Each crime and or civil suit has a number of elements that you have to meet in order to suffice that claim. Right. And so that's what makes being a defense attorney so fun is that the prosecutor will say, battery has 4. So if you're trying to claim a battery, you have to suffice all 4 elements as a prosecutor.
Right.
When you're a defendant or a defense attorney, you only have to knock off one of those claim not to go through. So, because you have to meet all of them.
Right.
So the ball was kind of already in the court, but when it comes to defamation, I'm not specifically aware of each element of them because I did not cover them in my civil courses or regardless in general, but it's difficult when you have something that doesn't expressly name the client. So because the article didn't expressly name him,
right,
it was making it difficult. But, and this is, I'm unaware because I'm not her attorney. I'm not sure of what instructions she was given, but she sank her own ship when she was on the stand.
Oh, awful.
And
oh my gosh.
And I don't know if that was her maybe attorney's malpractice and not preparing her to be ready for that kind of thing. Or if maybe she got the instructions and just did not listen to them. But usually when you're going to put a client on the stand, you practice with them so they don't mess up your case.
Right.
And she named him which is all they needed. And they were given, obviously, the runaround, and it was this a big publicized thing. I don't necessarily personally believe that the media should be involved in legal action at all, which we see that with Rittenhouse, how it was a problem there as well. We see that in even OJ, you know,
Right.
Where the media gets caught up in certain things that they believe is true without the proper education to actually communicate what really is happening. The case wasn't about a stupid article. The case was trying to get a legal representative to acknowledge that the things he was saying was true.
Right.
So,
yeah, you finish. Sorry.
It means more coming from someone, from a profession that is held to a specific standard, regardless of what you believe about attorneys. There is a power in that position. And to acknowledge from a legal standpoint that, hey, this might not necessarily have been true, is what he necessarily wanted. So the money was just
A byproduct.
But people are focusing on it pretty aggressively, and it's not the point of it. Just like Roe v. Wade, the point of it is not abortion law necessarily. It's bigger than that. The same with Rittenhouse case. It wasn't necessarily about what people thought it was about, the case. But
yeah, because I was talking to some of my buddies about, he's like, oh, he's trying to get the money or whatever. I was like, I mean, yeah, I'm sure, whatever. But what people don't understand is, like Amber Heard kind of hijacked the Me Too movement and was saying, she survived all this abuse from Johnny Depp, right? And that ruined his career. So, because I believe she won the civil suit in Europe or something like that. And because he lost, they were actually in the process of doing another Pirates of the Caribbean. They took him off. It's like, oh, no, we can't have you, Johnny. You're out here abusing women. And, he hasn't had an acting gig since then because of nobody, if let's say he did do it, nobody wants to hire somebody like that because, terrible person. But apparently he didn't or whatever, and she was making stuff up. So he sued her. Obviously, that's why he sued her for defamation, because if he can prove that she was just manipulating the media and she was the aggressor, whatever have you. Now people are like, oh, she lied. Now he can get he can get back, because now I saw literally, I might have been the day before the hearing. They're already casting him in Alice in Wonderland 2. Yeah. So now Disney, I hope, which I don't know what he personally would go back to Disney or not, but I love the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. I want another one. And I hope they pick Johnny, pick him back up, because those are, to me, they're fantastic movies. Everybody's their own cup of tea, but I love those movies. So it was more, like you said, it was more about him getting back into Hollywood, because Hollywood's so hip that, if you are raping or abusing women, or you're doing anything like to that level, oh no, your career, you can kiss it goodbye. Just like Amber Heard, she's getting dropped from Aquaman.
Well, and it's like the difficulty with this. So this is a saying, I actually wrote my personal statement to get into law school on this, was like, there's always three sides to a story, and it's yours, mine, and the truth.
And the truth. Yeah.
There's this issue with some of these publicized cases, is that it very well could have been both ways.
Yeah, it could have.
That's not the question that was being asked. And every legal case it's called an issue. And the issue is the fundamental question that they are answering. And that question is basically,
defamation.
What it decides the case. So when it comes to things like that, yes, we can demonize one person or another. We have seen how, by looking through, and this is going to be, but by looking through even just the Michael Brown case, about what the media does to demonize someone may not be correct. And it's more of the comfort level of how they feel to perceive with their ratings or whatever, based off of what will benefit them in the long run, regardless of the individual and who they actually were as a person. They will be remembered like that forever. No one was in those rooms, in those hallways, in that house besides them. And I'm not saying that everything obviously people lie all the time. I think that there was probably mutual issues on both sides, regardless of the like extent of them. As every couple, every relationship, I'm sure you have some of your buddies will get out of a relationship and be like, oh man, she was crazy.
Mhm.
And I'm sure she's going and talking to her friends too and be like, man, he's nuts. Like, you're always going to get different perspectives. That's the issue with the media being in the courtroom, is that it just shouldn't be. It shouldn't be a part of the courtroom. And it's a problem because you get people who are reading surface level things without reading cases to understand why. Because the law is not just a written document. It's the interpretation of that law is also law.
Mhm.
So each judge who has interpreted a law in every case after that now is laying a foundation for how that will be interpreted in the future.
Like the precedent.
Yes, exactly. And
I know a little bit, cuz. You know,
I know. Okay, I was trying to be simple with you.
No,
but,
I took my focus in high school was criminal justice because I was actually gonna go into that kind of stuff. So I know a little bit.
little something.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
we get like the slippery slope problem.
Yeah.
So, which is interesting, and we're kind of seeing that with some of the other cases that are going on right now, or just throughout history. And so it's interesting to see how people very just so aggressively took one side or another. And that's kind of like the sadness of being a part of the legal community, is that we see all of these people making assumptions and knowing nothing. So without sounding too rude about it, but really, truly, people make assumptions on something and don't know anything about it. And it's unfortunate. So.
Okay. So since I have your expertise, I want to get through two more things before we wrap it up. And the first one we've kind of already mentioned. I want your opinion on the Roe v. Wade, because I want to hear your opinion, and then I want to tell you like how my side. Basically, I want us to share our opinions.
Okay.
So you can go first.
So here's the thing. Roe v. Wade, yes, was brought into the court based off of an abortion-esque conversation. But what that case has turned into is so much more than that. And because what was it? It was cited in 1973, I think. I'm not remembering the dates exactly, but so that means every case that has cited that in their holdings, which is like their conclusion, kind of like the holding of a case is basically what the judge explains the decision was and why.
Right.
When they reference a case like that, because in a current case, you reference past cases. That's how you keep the precedent continuing.
Right.
And we have found a fault in that system when it comes to Trump v. Hawaii or Korematsu or things like that, which are cases. Korematsu is a case of Japanese internment camps, and Trump v. Hawaii was and not enabling people from specific Middle Eastern countries to come into our country based off of whatever. That's a whole other thing. Mm-hmm. But those precedents are important. And so that's why when the court looks at cases, they decide not just what is established prior, but how that case will affect our future. That's why you can't sue 3-year-olds for hitting you and calling it battery.
Right.
Because you don't want to set a precedent of 3-year-olds beating adults up. So, and suing them for it. And so with this case, it's the precedent that it's going to set if we completely decide that it shouldn't have existed. And the rights given to you from that case, or they're not fundamental rights, but they're still rights given to you, which is the right to bodily autonomy, which is what you do with your body in your private setting, whether it be a hospital room or your bedroom, is yours and yours alone, which is why this case now can affect certain marital rights, because the cases that were decided to give you the ability to marry someone of the same gender as you was that privacy in your home. And so if this is decided that you should not have that right to privacy, it now affects every right to privacy extended from that. So it's bigger and it's scarier than people realize. It's not just about abortion, and it's not just about women. And obviously it affects women the most, but it doesn't just affect women. And I feel like people forget that. And it can affect, they're leading it to the states. Your state specifically has a very colorful idea of what they will do if it's overturned. Yeah.
I know. I know.
I mean, mine as well, being from Missouri. Iowa has a really interesting take. I challenge you to read through some of the possible enactments that will take place, but it's a very aggressive take on it. And I understand, because I was raised in a Christian community, I understand both sides of the spectrum, but it's not forcing people to do something with their body. It's allowing them to choose. And when the government starts to tell you what you can and cannot do, that's a slippery slope with your body. And soon we find like cases like Hobby Lobby, where they fought taxation basically because they didn't want to allow their healthcare to enact birth control. Now the definition of birth control is broad, and the legal system is very big on definitions, and what you and your culture and your religion define as birth control, another culture and religion will define it differently. And some religions, I grew up Lutheran, the belief was that taking oral birth control was abortion. And that's what we were raised, and that's what we were told. And I was raised by a Jewish father who was like, okay, yeah, whatever, like your body, do whatever you want with it. So it's interesting to see a historically very Catholic Supreme Court justice initiate this kind of thing and call it not bias on religion. So that's the scary part about it.
All right. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
I'm about to go in. Here's my problem.
Yes.
Which I'm on your side. I 100% agree. Here's my problem.
If you're not, that's okay.
No, I'm just letting you know, like, that's my stance. Like, that's my stance. Here's my thing. Here's my problem. I don't know where I saw this, but I saw on the news they were showing what states were going, like you said, that what states were going to do, what they were going to plan, what they're planning on doing if it gets overturned, yada, yada, yada. And I saw there are literally states that are amending the Constitution so that they can make the necessary policies to ban abortions. I was like, whoa. If we allow that to happen, because the Constitution is supposed to be this document that literally is the guideline to our country. Freedom of speech, right to bear arms, yada, 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 plead the fifth, no slaves, right? If this goes through, like you said, it's a slippery slope. Now it becomes, well, if they can amend the Constitution to set a policy, a policy that they want, if they do it once, who's to stop them from amending it again so they can pass any policy they want? Mm-hmm. That's the problem. That's like you said, it's more than just the abortion thing, which, I believe that, like you said, if it's your body, you do what you want with it. My problem is I always have a problem with, like again, this is the thing we were talking about earlier in the podcast. It's supposed to be America, land of the free, home of the brave. Freedom, which is what this country is founded on, you're supposed to have the freedom to make decisions for yourself. I have no problem. If you're against abortion, don't get one. Mm-hmm. If you want one, that's your business, none of mine, right? I have a problem with we, and by we, I mean the country, start to create legislation to impose our will on somebody else. That's where I draw the line. I have a problem with that because as an African American, slavery hasn't been a thing for a while. And I'm not here to say I blame white people, yada, yada, but okay. Who's to say that they don't? Now, I know this would probably never happen, But if you can amend the law to ban abortions, who's to say they can't amend the law to have some type of labor force that's very, very similar to a slavery type of, you know what I'm saying? Slippery slope. It can get aggressive.
Well, and like to go off your point, I personally believe there are still aspects of slavery very present. I challenge you to go to any, you know, you're from the South, go to any prison there and tell me.
Oh, well, yeah, for sure.
And
well, see, if I can interject, prison gets a little, so politically, I'm independent. I don't side with either. So like, you know, I'm kind of here and there if you were trying to classify me politically. I got views both. I'm independent. Prison is a little different for me because if you're doing hard time, I personally, it sounds terrible, but if you committed a double murder, I don't think you should have the same rights as people that are abiding by the law.
Okay.
So it does that. I get it. I do think there's some type of middle ground, but again, you killed 3 people. One of them was a child. You should be allowed to vote. It's a little dicey, but just continue. Sorry.
That's a conversation we can also have.
It's
because it's whenever you start to decide who deserves what, you start burning at stakes.
Yeah, I know. See, that's what I'm saying. I get that.
That's the problem that comes with it, and that's why I specifically I got a great grade in criminal law this semester. I don't want to touch it with a 10-foot pole because I personally don't feel like I would necessarily be able to be okay with a lot of the things that I would have to do.
Yeah.
But neither here nor there. But with Roe v. Wade, the reason they're going about it the way that they are, they're not completely outlawing it by creating, a new law, but overturning it, giving the states the power to decide, basically stating that it's a state issue, not a countrywide issue.
Okay, they're giving it, they're basically deflecting the power to the state level.
Because there's certain kinds of powers that are given from the government, and it's like certain regulations regulate trade. State commerce is a federal issue, but commerce within inside of the state can be depending on how it's brought. And so the issue with this is that the constitutional question that was asked is, do you have the right to bodily autonomy? And that's why we actually have so many laws that you probably have experienced or seen that are not constitutional, but they can't be struck down unless they are brought up and challenged. You have to challenge it for it to be unconstitutional. And the issue is that there are usually 4 different ways that people interpret our Constitution. And when you get Supreme Court justices that have different perspectives on how to interpret it, it can be a wonderful, wet thing, but it can also be a very traumatic thing as well. Because if you get someone who interprets it exactly as it says, the words exactly as it was meant to be for the time in the people who wrote it.
In 70 something.
Yeah, I'm not a human and neither are you. Like, because I'm a woman.
Right, exactly.
And so it's like you get those kinds of those perspectives, and it's interesting just from, actually my final was discussed women's healthcare this semester, and it's scary to think even there are still states in our country that a woman can't get a hysterectomy without her husband's signature.
Oh yeah, I've heard of that.
And or if she hasn't had 3 children and she's above the age of 30 or something.
Yeah, I've heard those.
And so the fact that I would have to, if I'm unmarried, who's going to sign for me?
You got to meet those super hardcore requirements.
Call my dad, hey, no. Yeah. And it's the issue is that it doesn't reflect evenly on men. And even we found with the birth control for men trials that were going on, there was a few releases about, since they found out the side effects that would affect them, a lot of the trials have been decreased in numbers because the men don't want to deal with the side effects that have been given to them through taking that kind of thing to protect themselves, but would very gladly place that burden upon a woman.
Right.
And we will do it happily because we're raised to make other people happy. And not only like until, I mean, it took me until I was like maybe 23 to finally be like, you know what, this is stupid. Like, why am I doing this? Or why does anyone do this? And when it comes to the abortion laws, the state that you live in, my state will not do it. I mean, I'm in one of the bluest states in the country, but the problem is that if you really do need the help, each state is going to have their own regulation. And if you go across borders, it opens the opportunity for lawsuits. It allows people to sue if a woman is raped. There's, I can't remember which state it was. I read it 2 weeks ago, maybe, that the family, if she aborts the child, the parents of the rapist
Can sue
her.
Yeah, I saw that.
And
wow,
it's like, or some states, I think it was Iowa or Idaho, one of those two, were discussing the possibilities of giving birth and death certificates for abortions. And it goes back to like what you decide is contraception or what you decide is abortion. It's such a muddied area, and so it's scary to see such a hard stance on it, because each, you could talk to anyone of any different religion, they're gonna have a different definition of what is a child and what is a creative membrane and what is contraception. And they're trying to like alleviate that by giving it to the states to make it the state's problem. But this country is full of women and we're not going anywhere. And
pretty sure there's more women than men, right? I believe so. Yeah.
Especially in educated fields. So like the enrollment for men in university level education has decreased rapidly, especially in the liberal arts areas. Like men are not going into those fields as much anymore. And which is causing a disparity, which is like women in research have tended to prefer to marry someone of the same education or higher.
Mm-hmm.
Men do not have that as much. So then we're getting this separation of reproduction because of that kind of thing. And there's a gap that's being created, and this is only going to further it. And it's sad to think. Obviously, it's not decided yet, and there's still time. But I personally have only read about half of the 98-page document that he wrote.
98.
But yeah, it's huge. But that's what I do for my daily life. I read stuff like that, so it's not that big of a deal anymore. I would like to finish it, and when I finish it, I obviously would love to have another conversation. But I know that he was citing Plessy v. Ferguson, which was a fundamental case about racism, and just deciding that it never should have been a thing in the first place. And I think it's highly disrespectful to even consider that there's a parallel between the two, because it's not. You cannot compare a case giving rights to men and women based off of their skin color to the right to not have a child. They're not the same thing, and they shouldn't be treated the same way. And it was upsetting to me that he even cited that case. So
all right. Well, fun fact. I got another fun fact for you before we move to the last thing I want to get to.
Of course.
So in the United States Declaration of Independence, the second paragraph states all men are created equal. And this is going back to your point of the literal, whatchamacallit. Well, what people understand is when this document was created, there were slaves. Slaves weren't viewed as men and weren't viewed as human or people in the universe. So when it says all men are created equal, it's literally talking about white men, because slaves were not considered people men and or just humans in general. But fact. So go ahead.
And even you're saying that in that perspective, and God forbid you were a woman that wasn't white.
Oh,
because
double
then,
negative.
even men, I mean, men of all colors were able to vote before women were.
Right. Yeah.
And so if you were a woman during that time and of a different ethnicity or race, it was, I can only even just not even fathom how much pressure and how much hurt that was.
Yeah.
Because not only were you not a man, oh my goodness, not only were you not a man, but you were not seen as human even when men were seen as men.
Right.
So God.
Tough. So last topic, we got like 8 minutes. So this obviously is a very, very, very touchy subject, like for more recent events, but like the Texas school shooting,
Okay.
and then the day after that, they arrested a 10-year-old because he was on his way to shoot up his school with a rifle. And then there's the Oklahoma City, I believe, was like last week. This one I'm gonna go first because I think mine's like pretty quick to the point, but gun laws. Because now people are saying that we need to completely get rid of guns, period. And the only thing I would say to that is what people don't understand is when it comes to a lot of these shootings, a lot of these people are getting the guns illegally. So let's say you create a law that nobody can have guns. The only way you can really stop is if you completely got all the guns off the streets, off the black market, everything. Then they can't get guns, but even though they'll find a way. But let's say you restrict it and make it super hard to get guns. If they're getting the guns illegally anyways, a lot of these shootings are still going to happen because they got them illegally anyway. So I'm just going to stop there. And then because use your legal prowess to like how this, because I do kind of agree that it's weird that, like in Missouri, remember before we graduated, they changed to where you had to be 21 to even get cigarettes, to get tobacco.
Yeah.
But you could buy an AR-15 at 18, but you couldn't get cigarettes. So doesn't make too much sense. But you have to be 21 to get a handgun, but you can get a shotgun or rifle at 18.
It's because of the hunting culture specifically.
Yes. But what's your thoughts on that?
So I personally think, and I'm pretty middle line as well. I tend to lean a little bit more liberal on certain topics. And this is one of those where I'm very middle line. And I was actually called a bumpkin this semester for my views on gun laws. So that was fun.
A bumpkin.
But I think that outlawing guns in total would be as effective as making drugs illegal. And I know that you went to the same university as I did. So I know you saw a lot of the same things I did. Yeah. And it would be as effective as telling people that they can't do heroin, cocaine, meth, whatever you're feeling. Which obviously hasn't really been that effective now, has it?
Yeah.
So the issue is that, especially like coming from the city that I come from, and St. Louis being the way that it is, I used to run in the mornings with a 9 every morning just to have on me just in case. And I still have one here, and this state is crazy about it. The issue is that I feel like banning all guns is a fear response, not a logical response.
Right.
And it's a way to make you look like you're doing something about it. Like, oh, hey, look at us. Like, we're acting. Because when it comes to school shooters, the biggest issue has been, how the hell do you even prevent that? Like, you can prevent robbery from co-conspiracy laws and things like that, or at least attempt to. But how do you prevent something like that happening, especially when most of the time they are young boys? And that's why I was like, when we first got on, I was like, hey, happy Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, because when you don't teach people how to act and you don't give them the help and the need that they have, they will find an outlet in a way, and everyone has their own outlets, and some of them may be good and some of them may be bad, but they will find an outlet in a way. And for an individual to be at the point as a 17-year-old boy to even have the ability to get himself to do something so atrocious like that, it's mortifying. And you have to ask, that person is not born that way. You are created to be something like that. And that's a very difficult thing to monitor or police, because you can't go into every house and make sure the parents aren't doing terrible things to their kids, or the kids aren't watching things they shouldn't have, or the culture that's being created. And so it's one of those things, even as I was watching it and I saw the thing about San Antonio, I was talking to one of my classmates about it. I was like, what could they even really do right now about it legally? And it's scary because the media is going to tell you there's a whole lot that we can do. We can do this, 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 and this. But the real reality of it is, people are dying every day outside of school shootings and nothing has been done.
Yeah, this stuff takes time too. Jeez.
And so there's no fast fix. It's going to take time. And I think investigating all spectrums of how that action even comes to existing is a big part of it.
Yeah, I was listening to a podcast, and it was interesting. They brought up a kind of a solution that probably wouldn't stop all, but it would be a step in the right direction. But they were saying that, because I have a handful of guns. I have a gun. I have my carry and conceal permit. And then what I love about Tennessee is to get a carry and conceal permit, which now you don't have to have one, but before you had to not only pass a written test, which is like all the laws, make sure you know what you're doing, but you also have to pass a shooting test. You have to be able to be competent with a gun. You have to be able to shoot what you're aiming at. You shoot it like 15 feet, 30 feet, yada, yada, yada. You have to score a good grade. And then they teach you like what you should and shouldn't do, where you're protecting the law, it gets dicey. So when you come out of that, you're pretty better off than just somebody that buys a gun. But I carry a pistol, a little pocket rocket. I got one I keep loaded in the house, and I got 2 shotguns and a rifle. So, obviously, I'm not an anti-gun guy. I have guns. I understand the merits of them. But when you go get a gun, they do a background check. And what's not in the background check is a psychiatric or mental health profile. Mm-hmm. And they were saying, because a lot of these guys a lot of the people that end up shooting up schools or malls or whatever, they have been diagnosed, or their psychiatric profile would show that they have a mental health problem or diagnoses, whatever have you. And he was saying, if there was a way we could implement some type of that being a part of the background check, it could prevent, because then you'd be like, oh, I want to get this gun to the background check. Oh, it says you have whatever. We can't say the gun. It seems like a good idea. But then you also, like, back to our point, there are certain laws that are implemented where that technically would be unconstitutional because of
the disability, and you can't be prejudiced.
Exactly. But again, since this country wants to just amend shit to their will, I feel like if you could somehow find a way to amend whatever the law is to where it only goes towards buying high-powered rifles, I feel like that makes a little sense.
Yeah.
If you've been diagnosed with, no offense to anybody diagnosed with schizophrenia, I have an aunt that has schizophrenia, but if you're diagnosed with schizophrenia, I don't think you being able to own an assault rifle is, I don't think you should be. I don't believe you're in the right mental state to own such a high, powerful weapon if you hear voices in your head, because we don't know what they're telling you to do. Or what, you know what I'm saying? So I feel like that might be a potential solution. But again, I don't know, because so many legislations have to go through, and, Congress, it takes 3 presidents to get shit done. And I don't know.
Well, and it takes, like, with something like that. And I understand the perspective that you're coming from very well. However, from my psychology background and reading the DSM for fun, in order to be diagnosed with something, you don't have to maintain all qualities of it, just majority. So, like, something like borderline personality disorder has 3 characteristics that when you're looking through, you only have to have 5 of them to be diagnosed.
Right.
So people with bipolar or borderline personality, schizophrenia, they will all present similarly but different.
Right.
And your, I don't know, rage element of one specific mental disorder may be very different, maybe internalized, but maybe mine would be breaking things and screaming. Or narcissism presents itself in so many different ways. And even anxiety and depression, extreme depression, things like that, they're going to present differently. And so that's that difficulty with a legislation like that. Is me being diagnosed with anxiety, I have certain rights, and I have even, I don't know, it's my emotional support cat, like things like that, where I have certain rights because of that. Because there's a stigma that has affected so many people over history with mental health issues. And that stigma will only make it worse for people to seek help.
Yeah.
And then if you aren't seeking help, how are they going to know? You have to be diagnosed by seeking help. And then we get this circle of men not feeling comfortable seeking help and that kind of stuff. But you can only block what you know. And if someone is already hesitant to being diagnosed, historically men are underdiagnosed. You can't stop it if you don't know it.
Yeah, I was just thinking, I really thought of a loophole in that problem is that you have to actually go to the doctor and seek, because then if you do that, you have to make it mandatory to get psychiatric. And then once you do that, we're back to the same problem with the privacy it's all shit show.
Violation as well. And
yeah, exactly. It's all, I don't know.
And things like that. And men already feel like they can't seek help for small.
We can't. Nobody cares.
Yeah. Well,
nobody cares. I'm just messing with you, but I appreciate you coming on. We gotta wrap this up. Any socials? You got a website or just socials or anything you want to throw out there for people to contact or follow you?
I have an Instagram. It's just Astin.15. ASTIN. That's it. I'm not a big social media person, so I don't find it a healthy thing to be part of necessarily.
That's fine. That's fine. Well, I appreciate you for coming on, and obviously, great talks. I'm sure I'll have you on many, many more times.
Let me read some of this Roe v. Wade stuff, and I'll tell you all about it.
Oh, no, for real. Whenever you get done reading something and you want to vent or come on and just rant about it, I want to hear it. Because even though I'm not, I was going to go either into law or law enforcement, and I wanted to work in that, whatever. I did make a pivot, but I still have a side passion for just law, knowing the law, what's going on, the loopholes, the ins and outs. I just like knowing stuff like that. So for real, once you get done talking, you're like, hey, we got to talk about this case. Hit me up. We'll get on.
Okay. For me.
All righty. Y'all heard it here. It's been Uncle Strib. We are out.
Bye.